Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great to have you here with me today. We're going to be watching the tropics most importantly because over the next week or two, we have a big area that we're going to be watching, a tropical wave becoming a disturbance, and this could emerge here from the northwestern Caribbean into the Gulf. That's something we're going to keep a very close watch on. I've got all the details for you. And most importantly, could this become the season's first tropical storm? And don't forget, I'll link in the end of this video in the description down below if you haven't caught my 2025 hurricane outlook and what I think is going to happen this hurricane season. And we're going to be watching severe weather outbreaks across much of eastern North America and a big tropical moisture surge, especially the first week of June along the U.S. East Coast. Let's get into it. All right, so taking a look at the tropics here, this is going to be the big story over the next couple weeks. I do think we have a good chance of seeing our first tropical system. So as we continue to go through the 27th here into the 28th, you can see we have some scattered showers breaking out across Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico area, the Lesser Antilles, northeast and eastern Honduras, Nicaragua. You can see with this little bit, we're watching a couple areas here, obviously with some potential for some gusty showers moving through. Now look at the Eastern Pacific. Yeah, you're likely going to see your first tropical storm and hurricane paralleling the Mexican coastline here. You can see as we head through the 30th, you can see that moving just off the coast here. May affect the Baja of California. This area, watch out as we head through next weekend. So let's just back this up. I wanted to show you very briefly as we head throughout mid to late week. Here it is. This deep tropical moisture. This is our trouble area right here. We also have another area across Trinidad, Tobago. So watch this. As we just put this into motion, you can see on our latest run here of the modeling, right around May 30th, we're getting into late week here. Very persistent area of showers and thunderstorms around this area of high pressure. You can see the high pressure really progress further to the east here. You got this East Coast trough. This is another area we're going to be watching here. So watch the tail end of these frontal boundaries this time of year. But as we head through next weekend, we really ultimately start to see this area congeal across Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica area. You can see this very elongated area, tropical wave, tropical disturbance, likely a tropical disturbance by this point, June 1st. You can see tremendous rainfall moving westward here. So Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Puerto Rico do start to clear out around June 2nd here after some very heavy rain. So watch this. Look at this persistent area around Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. Tremendous rainfall totals will ensue, and it does get hooked up with the tail end of this frontal boundary. You see this area of low pressure here. So this is something we're going to have to keep a very close watch on because it's going to have an area of low pressure try to develop just west of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, depending on where this sets up. So this looks pretty intense for this time of year. You can see right around the Cayman Islands. We could be talking about rainfall amounts close to 200 to 400 millimeters here. So in excess of like 6 to 12 inches in some areas. This could be a very big concern. You see this area of low pressure continuing to try to develop here through June 4th here. And you can see it really does start to take on what could become subtropical or tropical characteristics here on the modeling. Could this be some beneficial rain for Florida? It looks like it could be. One thing to note, though, the area of the high pressure really does start to direct the moisture northward towards eastern North Carolina here and up the East Coast. So this is something we got to watch as well because it does spin off more of a secondary low that moves up the East Coast here. And I'll talk more about this in our outlook for synoptic scaling here because this could be a nor'easter type system or maybe even some subtropical system. But here, we're still watching our system June 6th here. The northwestern Caribbean, as you can see, through June 7th. Looks like we have another tropical system trying to form here in the Eastern Pacific at this point. But you can see this is a very broad area of low pressure. So we may have something try to develop out of this. It's the best shot we've seen all season long here. As you can see, very persistent through June 8th. There's our last frame. It does start to try to enter the Gulf here. You can see right around June 9th into the 10th, you can see the GFS really starting to show it emerging right here into the Gulf between Cancun and the western tip of Cuba. Here's the Florida Keys. And thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our European model analysis here. You can see as we kick it through here, let's make sure we got the longer range model outlook. Here we go. So as we stretch through Monday, May 26th here. So we're starting off with our Monday here. You can see some showers stretching across Jamaica, parts of Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Honduras, parts of Nicaragua here as well. Central parts of the Lesser Antilles here as well. Now, here it's Tuesday, May 27th. Look at the European already showing the surge of moisture here with this potential tropical wave emerging here. So look at that. That stretches westward here. We do have an area of low pressure trying to initialize here on the European. Very little fanfare, though, with that. But look at, here it is. Wednesday, May 28th, you see those showers, heavier showers pivoting here towards the west into the east coast of Central America. So that's something we'll watch here. Showers continuing across the north central Caribbean. But watch, as we head through Thursday into Friday, look at this area down towards Trinidad, Tobago. This area is going to emerge, a big area surge of tropical moisture with this tropical wave. And it really does get some heavy rain moving through Grenada, these areas southward to Trinidad and Tobago. So watch out, some gusty showers, thunder showers, heavier rains. I'll go over those rainfall amounts momentarily because that is going to be a big story. Flooding potential running high here across the Caribbean islands into Central America. As we stretch through May 30th here into the 31st, you can see this surge of tropical moisture. Look at South America here, just inundated with lots of these pop-up showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Now, here it is, June 1st. We do start to see the evidence of this big tropical wave, tropical disturbance, really trying to take shape and form here. And there's the tail end of that front across South Florida, the southeastern Gulf here, northeastward to Bermuda area. So this is going to all converge together here through June 1st into June 2nd. You can see these heavier showers and thunderstorms, a lot of them just south of Jamaica, Cayman Islands by this point, through the central Bahamas, June 2nd. And look at this. This just congeals and forms, and it's consolidating. And it's so remarkable that the European and the GFS are both on board with this. If it was just one model, I'd be a little skeptical. But look at this. So we stretch through June 4th into June 5th. This is where things really start to get cranking here. Both models, as I showed you the GFS previously, showing this big surge of tropical moisture. We may have something try to develop here as it emerges into the Gulf as well. So everybody in the Caribbean, especially the central western Caribbean, into the Gulf, needs to be watching this very closely. You see where the high pressure is by this point, June 5th. It's building westward. So this would push any potential system into the Gulf by this point. And there it is. It's actually an initialized area of low pressure, very broad area of low pressure, but there it is, stretching through June 7th into June 8th. It looks like it's targeting much of Texas into Louisiana here. So a lot can change. You know, this is anybody's game at this point. We'll have to watch for potential development here. Look at Central America getting inundated here with these heavier showers and thunderstorms. And as we stretch through June 9th, you can see those showers continuing scattered about the northeast Caribbean islands. Sea surface temperature analysis. Look at how alarming this is. The Caribbean, western Atlantic into the Gulf. Things are warming very rapidly. Look at that, right around Florida, in excess of 3 degrees above average. So this is alarming. This tells me we're heading right into hurricane season with tremendous sea surface temperature. Now look at this. This is helping out here by the Cape Verde Islands. This is where the Saharan dust is really kicking up. And this will affect, those sea surface temperatures as the less sunlight's able to beat down here on the ocean surface. Taking a look at the Western Caribbean here, Central America, Caribbean islands, on the GFS model. I'll show you the European model momentarily. Here it is. This week, we do start to moisten things up later in the week, especially next weekend, right around the 31st and June 1st. Look at this. There's that potential tropical system. So we head into the first week of June. Look at this. Cayman Islands, 500 millimeters in some areas in these darker browns. Parts of Jamaica, eastern Jamaica, Portland Parish, look at that, upwards of 250 millimeters. Most of the island getting between 60 and 80 millimeters. Look at Dominican Republic as well, upwards of 100, 125 millimeters. And really moist through Honduras here as well, 125 millimeters on average. Look at this, we just zoom in, you can see we're really looking moist across much of the Western Caribbean. If we take a look at our European run here, look at this. Just put this into motion. Yeah, it starts out kind of dry, a few showers throughout the beginning of the week here. But look at that. Next weekend into the first week of June, look at this. There's that potential tropical system. As I said before, Central America, look at the Yucatan here, upwards of 200 millimeters, 100 to 200 throughout Central America here. Look at Jamaica. Yeah, some areas approaching 200 millimeters here, mostly averaging out to 100 millimeters on the European. Even the Cayman Islands here on this run of the European model, upwards of 150 millimeters. But look at that. You can see it tracking into the Gulf of Mexico here. Bahamas moistening up as well. A little bit lesser on the European here for the Dominican Republic, averaging out to about 60, 70 millimeters here in the highlands, interior regions, and the south coast as well. Puerto Rico in the same boat, about half to 3/4 of an inch. And taking a look at our European model here for the Eastern Caribbean, yeah, as we stretch throughout this week, Trinidad and Tobago, this is where things are going to really moisten up around the 31st with that tropical wave. But then that translates to the west here. So it's actually a little bit of a dry spell for the most part for the northern, the lesser Antilles here. So we'll watch it. It's mainly going to be from the Central Caribbean westward here. So you can see, yeah, some of these islands could get upwards of 100 millimeters, especially the highlands, northeast facing highlands on these lesser Antilles islands here. Trinidad Tobago area, this is where I think you could get upwards of 60 to 100 millimeters. So watch out for that. And if we take a look at the GFS here, this run, yeah, you get some showers mid to late week here across the north central Caribbean islands, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. But look at this. Yeah, it's Central Caribbean westward. That's the trouble spot. And Trinidad Tobago area, maybe towards Grenada here. These areas getting close to 100 millimeters in some areas. Puerto Rico, the eastern part of the island here on the GFS, upwards of 125 millimeters. That'll get you up towards 3 to 4 inches. But most of the island averaging out to about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch. All right, so the rest of your Sunday evening and Sunday night, you can see where the big severe weather is going to be. Across Texas here, Arkansas, through parts of the deep south here, even off the coast of Florida. But you can see rain stretching eastward to the Appalachians here through 2 a.m. on Monday. Look at this in the northeast. We actually see some clearing. So you might eke out a pretty good Memorial Day here. But unfortunately, across the southern plains and deep south, it looks like stretching from Texas. Look at this big bow echo here across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Another complex, mesoscale convective complex around Atlanta here, and some generalized rain across much of North Carolina and southern parts of Virginia here. So the clouds and the rain really socked in through noon on Monday, Memorial Day. So look at this. This stretches to the north and to the east. You see these complexes of showers and thunderstorms. Will eke out a pretty good day across the northeast. So get out there and enjoy it after that rainy all last week into the first part of the weekend, for that matter. Now look at this. As we stretch through 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning, these are big complexes of strong thunderstorms from Texas all the way up to Kentucky, so watch out. You can see the cloudiness spreading through Cleveland here, Pittsburgh, through 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning, so watch out. Thankfully, it doesn't look like much rain heading up this direction until more towards Wednesday. But look at this. We do get the rain showers, heavier rain moving through North Carolina, Virginia, 4 p.m. into Maryland through 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening. And then we get a big mesoscale convective system across to Alabama and Mississippi here, so watch out for that. You can see moisture is going to be increasing from the eastern Great Lakes to the northeast as we stretch later Tuesday, especially, though, into Wednesday. So for the rest of your Sunday, this is the big concern, especially Sunday evening. Look at these two areas of enhanced severe weather, northern Texas and central southern Oklahoma, and parts of eastern Arkansas through northern Mississippi and Alabama. Watch out. The tornado threat and damaging wind threat is running very high. And here we go. We stretch on into your Monday. So Memorial Day, this is where things really get cranking. A marginal risk across much of the deep south, but look at Texas. This is where that slight risk remains. As we stretch into Tuesday, that marginal threat continues from Texas all the way to Georgia here, all the Gulf Coast states, so watch out. So here we go, picking up where our future radar left off here on the GFS. As we can see, Tuesday, the 27th into the 28th, you see that high pressure system is in retreat off the U.S. East Coast here, off of New England, and you see the rain advancing here. So we got severe thunderstorms from Texas all the way through Georgia here, and the southern Gulf Coast states here. Now look at this, the 28th into the 29th, you see this moisture surge across the mid-Atlantic into the northeast. You can see some rain moving back in as we stretch through midweek here. So that moves off to the northeast. It looks like this coastal does try to develop into something, but very little fanfare with it. As we stretch through the 29th, you can see this mid-Mississippi River Valley low really gets cranking with some severe weather across the deep south here. So that's going to be a thing. We could have some convection as far north as Ohio, but it looks like it washes out as this front occludes across the Ohio Valley into the eastern Great Lakes. And unfortunately, this does set us up for another area of rain moving in Friday into next Saturday across the northeast. So this is something we'll have to keep a very close watch on. Unfortunately, it does look like more rain, but it does look like a quick mover. So hopefully we can get this out of the northeast as we head later on into next Saturday. But look at that. You see another severe weather outbreak ensuing across Texas, that upper level low moving across the Canadian Maritimes. And this is where we start to see that area of high pressure build in. Most of the modeling is showing this ring of fire here through June 4th. You can see lots of dry conditions across the eastern United States, with the exception for South Florida. That's that tropical moisture I was telling you about. So look at that. Through June 4th into the 5th, you can see that ring of fire right around this area of high pressure. The outer periphery of it really starts to get cranking. However, look what starts to happen. This high pressure does start to weaken here on the GFS, and we see a tropical moisture surge from the southern tip, eastern coast of Florida, all the way up to the Outer Banks here. So this is something we'll have to keep a watch on because it does show an area of low pressure. We'll have to keep an eye and see if this does develop into some subtropical. But it looks more like a nor'easter at this point, right around June 7th into the 8th. High pressure building in behind it. You can see we still have some moisture trapped here across the Appalachians, southern Appalachians, all the way up with this system across the central Great Lakes. You can see right around June 10th, we get that ring of fire around this Bermuda high pressure. And there's that area in the Gulf emerging, potential tropical system. So for our European model here, picking up where our future radar left off, you can see as we progress in time through the rest of Memorial Day, we're going to be seeing those severe weather outbreaks, obviously across the southern plains and the deep south here. Watch, though, it's going to be a nice day in the northeast until about Tuesday, later Tuesday into Wednesday. Tuesday, it's the Ohio Valley, Appalachians, that it gets bad, and then Wednesday, this low moves up through the northeast part of the country. You can see from the mid-Atlantic, the Outer Banks, all the way up through Pennsylvania, Michigan, New York State, these areas. We're going to see those showers and thunder showers push through. So once again, we're back to an unsettled weather pattern. We only get a day or two of a break here in the northeast and parts of the Ohio Valley. That moves up into the Canadian Maritimes through the 30th. You can see we're pushing that frontal boundary off the coast. We get another area of, showers and thunderstorms diving to the southeast. So do we see any evidence of that big high? Yes, we do on this. You can see right around June 4th, big warm high pressure building in. We start to see that ring of fire develop, which, it does start to push eastward here into the Ohio Valley. So for those of you in the Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes, down into the Mississippi River Valley, we could see some strong to severe thunderstorms on June 5th here. So I know I had a lot of people in Ohio asking about severe weather. Look at, there's that feature in the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to continue to watch. Very interesting. We may have some development here. And then it's showing up on, both models here for the most part. You can see on Friday, June 6th here, more showers and thunderstorms throughout the Ohio Valley into the northeast. But ultimately, you can see that high pressure is remaining in control. So we're seeing that ring of fire around it. So watch out if you're around the outer periphery of this high. You're going to see some showers, thunderstorms. Some could be severe. So if we look at precipitation amounts here, this is where things are going to get really interesting across the midsection, deep south, and then eventually getting up into the northeast. As you can see, we head through the last part of your weekend here. Look at that. It's actually drying out for the most part in the northeast with a few showers today. But look at this. As we get in throughout the week into the first week of June, you can see where the heaviest precipitation is going to lie. Even some in Florida here. I know a lot of you said Florida's been, especially the Panhandle's been really dry. Hopefully we can get some rain for you here. We do get up to between 1 and 2 inches here in many areas. But look at this area. All the way from Texas, the Mississippi River Valley, the Plains, the Ohio River Valley. we could be talking about totals approaching 4 or 5 inches in some of these areas. Outer Banks as well. Look at this. We get some deep moisture, some of this tropical moisture streaming up along the U.S. East Coast. Now, if we take a look at the GFS here, this is where things are interesting as well. So, you know, the last part of the weekend here from Memorial Day weekend looks good in the Northeast. We're pulling that precipitation out, but look at this. Through next weekend into the first week of June, look at this. We see a massive surge of tropical moisture all the way into the eastern Great Lakes. We're going to watch this along the U.S. East Coast as well with that potential tropical entity. Look at parts of South Florida getting upwards of 8 inches in some areas. Outer Banks close to 6 inches here. We'll have to watch this. This looks really interesting. Widespread 2 to 4 inch amounts further inland as well. And don't forget, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I'd love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates, especially ahead of this active hurricane season. And if you haven't caught my 2025 complete hurricane outlook, I have a link in the description down below and at the end of this video, so be sure to check that out. Let's continue. And we're taking a look at the upper air pattern here on our European run. You can see that trough moving out of the northeast. We get a ridge building throughout the first part of this week, but look at this big cutoff low. This is what I'm talking about this time of year. We're having some serious problems with these lows cutting off, and this is what gets us into some of this trouble. It does provide some beneficial rain, but I must say, look at this. This is quite a trough by Friday, so this is setting us up for the beginning of next weekend, Saturday the 31st. Look at it, does start to go negatively tilted, so you know we're going to have inclement weather once again along the East Coast and especially the Northeast. As we get towards Wednesday and Thursday, though, heading on into June 4th and June 5th, look at this. Ridge overtakes the full eastern part of North America until around June 9th, where we do start to see evidence of another trough cutting off. As we take a look at our MJO index, you can see we are clustered right in this 4, 5, 6 range, maybe heading towards 7 towards mid-June. We'll watch it here, but these are typically quieter phases, but the weather pattern is not favoring quieter weather. As we take a look at the NAO index, we are hovering right around neutral. So, you know, the weather pattern can go either way at this point. And here we go over your Canadian weather outlook. It does start off very quiet here. Big area of high pressure. The only show in town is this west coast pummeling of this tropical system here. So the west coast of British Columbia are really getting hammered here with some tremendous valley rain, some mountain snow in the highest peaks, but those snow levels have been rising with those rising temperatures. Now watch this. As we head throughout the week, we do get to midweek, we do start to see some inclement weather around Ottawa here, southern Ontario, into southern Quebec. You can see right around the 29th into the 30th towards New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and this eventually Newfoundland here. Canadian Maritimes, this upper level low really kicks in. But the big story is going to be this heavier precipitation, this rainfall from London, Toronto, up to Ottawa, right around Friday here with our United States system. That does propagate into southern Quebec by this time. So unfortunately, next Saturday looks like a rainy time of it across southeast Canada and stretching up into the Canadian Maritimes by June 1st. But you see high pressure builds right back in. It's mainly around the northern provinces here of Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec. We continue to see that rain moving to the north and east. We do see a front try to stretch its way June 4th across southern Ontario and central Quebec here, so watch out for that. Maybe some thunder showers. High pressure dominant across the western 2/3 of Canada here. Look at that. High pressure really in control. That pushes that front to the east. And look at this. By June 6th, the only show in town is these stronger thunderstorms out here in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And we also get this area of low pressure producing some heavy rain for southern Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland here, and then rain breaking out across Ontario with some stronger thunderstorms in the southern province here. So watch out. We do start to get into a much more active weather pattern. June 10th here, you can see, look at this storminess across the prairies. This is some beneficial rain, so we can't complain about that. And then a big cold front moving through parts of Ontario and Quebec. If we take a look at your precipitation amounts here into Canada, look at that. The west coast getting pummeled with tropical systems. I have tropics on my mind here. It's getting synoptic systems here from the Pacific, and look at that, just pummeling. Southeast Canada, look at that as we stretch through June 1st. Through the 5th, that's where things get really moist as we get a lot of these ring of fire systems as well as some coastal systems as well. Some areas upwards of 60 to 100 millimeters of rainfall. And if we take a look at temperatures here, this is going to be a big story as well. You can see with the clouds and the rain held down here in the plains on Monday or Memorial Day. Look at 90s along the Gulf Coast, and we're slowly warming things up here in the Northeast as well. We're getting towards 70 in many areas. Tuesday, the warming trend continues. Some areas of New England getting into the mid to high 70s. Temperatures being held down here in the Carolinas and the Appalachians here with plenty of 60s and 70s with the clouds and the rain. And a Wednesday, look at this. Yeah, you can see where the clouds and the rain are going to be on Wednesday across the Midwest and the Northeast here. Great Lakes region held down into the 60s. Now watch this. As we head into Thursday, we start to see this warming trend, 80s all the way up to the Mid-Atlantic here, 70s across much of the Midwest and the Northeast. And then as we head into Friday, the 30th, getting to the end of May, 70s prevalent across the lakes in the Northeast, the Ohio Valley. And then as we head into Saturday, you can see a little bit of a reinforcing shot of some cooler air with the clouds and precipitation on the backside of that front. Extended forecast from hometown viewers, Binghamton, Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. So we head through the rest of your Memorial Day weekend. A few showers on Sunday afternoon, but Monday, Memorial Day, thankfully it looks mostly clear by afternoon onward here. So we might make it to the 70-degree range in a Monday night and Tuesday. Drier conditions prevail into the mid-70s, partly sunny skies. But look at this. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we head back into that rainy, showery pattern, heading up towards the upper 60s to mid-70s. So watch out for that. But yeah, the rain is going to be back with that unsettled pattern, upper level low cutoff across the Great Lakes. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, super thanks. You can smash that super thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone, share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.